Welcome, gaming friends. In today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at the most recent updates from Arena on the World Restructuring beta that is happening for World vs. World, in addition to the most recent reward updates that have happened for World vs. World reward tracks. We're going to take a look at 2 weeks after the reward track changes have been made, what behaviors have happened to modify players, if any, in the World vs. World arena. And we will take a look at what that means for new players entering World vs. World and how much more quickly they are able to get the rewards with the new reward track changes. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a quick review of the most recent blog post. Alright, gaming friends, let's go ahead and take a look at the most recent World vs. World update for the Alliance beta. Hi all, we're back with an update regarding the next beta test for World vs. World Restructuring. On November 10th, we announced that the November 12th beta would be delayed while we addressed an issue that emerged during our latest testing. We have since resolved the issue and now are targeting December 3rd through December 10th for our next beta. On November 30th, you will be able to choose which guild you would like to matchmake with for the event for World vs. World beta on the World vs. World tab. You must make your guild selection by 11:59 p.m. Pacific time on December 2nd, or you will be match made as an individual player for the event, e.g. you will not be in a guild. When the build goes live on November 30th, World vs. World may be disabled for up to 30 minutes while we make some changes on the servers in preparation for the beta. More information is below. Between November 30th and December 2nd, we will be running at scale in the background pre-test for the World vs. World Restructuring system using the live player data. This test should not impact your World vs. World experience unless things break, in which case we'd roll back the changes immediately on the back end, and then this test of World Restructuring would then be fully enabled, and we will be using the match make players into the exact teams they already are assigned to in the existing World Link system. Again, you shouldn't notice any differences in your current matchup. It's a nifty way to test matchmaking and team assignments before the beta starts for the World vs. World reset the following Friday. When the beta begins on Friday, players will be match made into new teams. If the pre-test fails, depending on the severity of the issue, we'll give it a chance to give it a hot fix before Friday or postpone the beta once more. We'll keep you up to date on any changes. Thank you from the Guild Wars 2 team. Alright, another great communication here from Arena in regards to World vs. World Restructuring. They're doing a really good job of letting us know their plan of attack for getting this World vs. World Restructuring done, as well as what pitfalls and challenges they are hitting along the road, and what they are doing to mitigate those challenges. During the launch of the End of Dragons trailers and stuff, they did mention that World vs. World was going to be a key point of emphasis for them, so I do believe that the End of Dragons is kind of a unspoken deadline for the World vs. World Restructuring team to have a stable version of the guild system at a minimum into the game prior to the launch of End of Dragons. So I think there's going to be a lot of emphasis and motivation from the studio to get World Restructuring done, at least to the guild version of Restructuring prior to the launch of End of Dragons. I expected that this next beta is either going to go well, or they're going to find a little more information that they're going to need to get a good final product ready to have World Restructuring, like a full week of retesting on the beginning of January. So it's going to be kind of hit or miss here potentially. I think they've uncovered a lot of stuff that they should be able to actually probably keep the World vs. World environment stable during this next beta, as well as probably have a pretty solid matchmaking distribution that are going to allow for some much more fun matchups. So let's go ahead and take a look at the reward system updates that they've added to the game here, and what impact I've noticed that has had on player behavior so far, as well how that is going to impact new players and veteran players alike in the World vs. World community. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the World vs. World reward track updates then as well, addressing exploits that allow siege weapons to be placed within the red team spawn location in EVG, addressed exploit that allowed siege weapons to be placed within the homeworld spawn of the Alpine Borderlands. The big changes here are to the reward system though. They increased the number of pips being earned each match from 3, 4, and 5 to 4, 5, and 6, so +1 for your positioning in your match placement. They did add a additional pip for everybody that is below rank 149, and also increased the number of pips that were given to the players that were above that. They removed the outnumbered buff for the pips, at least, where you would get an additional 5 pips if you were on a map that was outnumbered. They also removed World versus World grace period time for repairing walls to structures that were not currently under attack. If you do repair a structure that is currently under attack that has the defend event on it, however, you will gain your participation back up to the 10-minute mark after the defense of that objective has been completed. So let's go ahead and take a look at how quickly that changes things for new players in World vs. World that are trying to fill out their pip reward tracks every week. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what that means for a brand new player to World vs. World. We're going to look at this for a brand new player that is on a last place server in the level 1 through 149 with the commitment rank, and we're going to compare the old system to the new system. So on the previous system, it would have taken them 2 hours to complete their wood chest and about 30 hours to complete all the way up through the diamond chest for the first time. On the brand new system, the same player with the exact same rank can now spend about 1.4 hours completing the wood chest and about 20 hours to complete the diamond chest all the way through. So they're saving about 10 hours if they're completing their complete World vs. World reward track through the pip system per week. Now, if we move on to a player that has a few more ranks and then we go into the 150 to 619 rank, and they're on a second place server, so you can kind of get a, even if you're on last place server and still up a higher rank, it'll kind of be where I think most average World vs. World players are probably going to fall. There's definitely an increasing population that is getting higher than this, but I would say your average World vs. World player is going to be able to finish on the old system their wood chest in about 1.4 hours and completing all the way up through their diamond chest in about 20 hours. And now on the new system, the same players will then be able to complete their wood chest in about 1 hour and then be able to complete all the way up through diamond in about 15 hours, which will be saving them a total of 5 hours. So after reviewing the World vs. World pip system changes over the last couple of weeks, general consensus is that it's more helpful for the lower tiered World vs. World players that are just getting into World vs. World for the first time, and less impactful for the more veteran players. I think one thing ArenaNet could do to modify this system a little bit better, I think they're on the right track, is to incentivize getting further and further into your World vs. World reward track. So like they have the one for the wood chest, they could add another reward in there for 2 pips for making it to the gold chest, and then 3 pips for making it all the way out to the diamond chest, incentivizing players to spend more time in World vs. World. Another observation was that the repairs from the repair not renewing your participation doesn't seem to have had a very large impact, because most objectives that are getting repaired on a regular basis generally are continuously contested. And the other thing that I did notice with the pips being removed from outnumbered maps generally has had a little bit of a impact in maybe moving players to slightly more populated maps as opposed to just going and hunting the outnumbered pips on the less populated maps. So those are kind of my final thoughts with the current updates to World vs. World and the updated news to World vs. World. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below, as well as if you have any questions about the upcoming changes to World vs. World. Hopefully you guys are all having a great one, and I'll catch you next time.